and I'll be joined by an economist and managing director of financial derivatives, Bismarck Rewane. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Well, let's take a look at this matter. First of all, let me get your thoughts on the NATO report. What did you think about it? What did you make of it when you heard it?
First and foremost, it's alarming, but it's also a portrayal of the truth. The truth is that oil is significant and relevant in the Nigerian economy. So any amount of transparency or any improved transparency would help to bring it to the forefront so that Nigerians can know exactly this is a family silver that we're playing with.
But then this is not the first time we're getting a report such as this. So why is it
What have we done with it?
Exactly.
That's the question.
So what have we done with the report, and what should we be doing with the report?
Well, first and foremost, it's not a talking shop. We should take some steps. Knowing about the problem is 50% of the solution. What steps to take becomes the next thing to do. But the reality is that there's official leakage, and then there's criminal leakage, which is oil theft. So I think first and foremost, let us put it in context. Nigeria's export earnings, Nigeria's take from oil revenues is about almost $60 billion, roughly $55 billion a year. What is being lost to oil theft is 400,000 barrels a day, which comes to about almost $10 billion. That's 20% of the income is gone. But I want you to understand something. Every barrel of oil is equal to 350 liters jerry can. Right? So I want you to imagine 400,000 barrels of oil means that it's 1.2 million jerry cans. 1.2 million jerry cans, you need about 3 or 4 trailers, 25-ton trailers to carry it, or you need a massive ship to. So it's not what can be stolen in a hidden manner. This is an elaborate scheme. 400,000 barrels of oil a day is elaborate. It's huge. It's not what you hide in one jerry can. And like I said, 1.2 million 50-liter jerry cans.
But it seems to have been hidden because we're not seeing
every
anything.
Day.
We're not getting anything. We're not getting anything out of it because it seems as if it's actually been hidden.
No, what I'm trying to say is that the physical content is what I'm talking about. The financial impact is that we are losing almost $11 billion a year. $11 billion is more than what is required to put up, say, 3-4 university teaching hospitals. Let me put it in context. Dangote Group is investing $5.6 billion to build a refinery. So what you are saying is that the financial cost of the oil theft is equivalent of building 2 refineries a year. And if you had that for the past 5 years, that means 10 refineries. Nigeria will not only refine all its oil, it will refine for the rest of Africa, just from oil theft alone.
So why can't we have transparency in how these revenues are remitted, and maybe let's have something commiserate with developments in the economy?
No, but see, the thing is that a leakage takes away from the system. I am saying that the amount being stolen, both in financial terms and in physical terms, is so huge that it cannot be done without the connivance of a lot of people in the system. So it's an elaborate scheme, and therefore, first and foremost, let's talk about it, and then secondly, let's see how we deal with it. Because at a time like this, when oil revenues are coming down or are likely to be threatened, every loss is significant. So it's not just there's a direct loss, there's also an opportunity cost, because that revenue could have been used for something else.
So what should we be doing right now? What should we be doing right now to plug this leak?
First and foremost, there has to be greater accountability, and people have to be held to account. Who are the people responsible for securing to ensure that these things don't happen? There's oil theft and oil vandalism is the petty pilferers. But oil theft is an elaborate scheme. That oil is taken and is passed through a system. It is refined. It's paid for. And significantly, it is a threat to national security, because whoever has this kind of money will be using it to buy ammunition or drugs or what have you, anything to undermine national security. So it not only does it impede development, not only does it stifle growth, not only does it reduce government revenue, not only does it reduce the income per capita of the people, it also is used as inimical to people's interests, because they use it for anti-Nigerian activities. So it's a major issue. What can be done? We have security forces. We have, there's a team that meets with the president every month or something that looks at national security issues. That should be on the forefront. It's an indictment of any administration or any of a country as a whole if 20% of our income is being lost on a daily basis.
Well, apart from Nigeria losing some money, we noted that some companies, for instance, Shell, has taken a hit on its profits in for the second quarter. It reported that its profit actually dropped to about $4.6 billion from $5.7 billion. My point is that isn't this a situation of probably them crying wolf so that nobody would actually put eye on whatever it is that they're doing in terms of having to pay for whatever it is that they're doing, like remitting of their obligations to the federal government in question?
No, I think companies like Shell or Chevron or ExxonMobil have to sign up under what they call the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. They are not allowed in any form to carry out any action which is inimical or illegal in the countries they operate. Therefore, it is true, they declare a force majeure. They have contracts to supply crude to different parts of the world. It's in Shell's best interest, one, to produce crude because they have a margin, operator's margin. Two, to sell the crude in the market because they have a margin also on the sale of this. So I don't think it's anybody's interest. The reality is that if somebody steals from the flow station or disrupts their production, it affects their profit. Their profit was affected by 0.2%. It might sound small to you, but it's when you take it in the context of Shell's global contribution to the global petroleum markets, it is significant.
Well, let's look at the role of the PPRA and
Yes.
the NNPC in all of this. Two government agencies, and between both of them, they're actually supposed to have remitted as much as 8.40 billion naira. Is this supposed to be a cause for concern? Because they are government agencies, like we've pointed out, and PPRA has actually labeled the report as inaccurate and as misleading. What do you make of this?
The little I know about government accounting is that you can make a claim on the PPRA. PPRA also has a counterclaim on the government. It's the way the subsidy accounting is done. So it's, one has to listen to both sides before you understand which is correct. But obviously, the fact that we're having a healthy debate on how government revenues are earned and how government revenues are spent and accounted for is good for the system. There has to be some transparency, but the Accountant General of the Federation will throw more light on this. But there is an attempt under the Minister of Finance to see how they can improve the level of accountability and the level of transparency in government finances. A lot of initiatives.
This also applies for the NNPC as well?
Absolutely. The payment system, what they call the APs, the GFIS, and revenue management system, all of this, it will take some time, but the impact of this over time will be that revenues will be optimized while expenditure will be kind of curtailed.
Well, let's look at revenue losses and their implications on the economy. On a scale of 1 to 100,
yes,
how much are we looking at in percentage terms?
First and foremost, I've told you, nominally 20% of our revenue is gone. But the reality is that what would you have done with 20%? Don't look at it just in nominal losses. The multiplier effect of a leakage, you see, if there's an injection into the system, in macroeconomics we call it, there's a multiplier effect on income. If there's a leakage, it has a negative multiplier effect. Therefore, if you take 20% of my income away, the negative multiplier effect will be plus a factor of maybe 5 or something like that. So you are really taking away from me 5 plus 20 cumulatively over the year, so you've probably taken away 30 to 35% of the income impact. Therefore, the Nigerian generation coming in 3 or 4 years' time will have a negative impact on its standard of living and its ability to be globally competitive. And that is where it is. The problem is that as the income is declining and the income opportunities are also declining, the threat of a decline in oil prices and oil revenue on government revenues, both at the federal, state, and local government level, and the impact on the standard of living of the ordinary Nigerian is significant.